By counting cards, you will confuse your spectator. The magician starts with a normal deck of cards and a prediction. On the prediction, there is a number that the magician wrote earlier. This number will be shown at the end of the trick. The magician starts by giving the deck to the spectator and asks him to shuffle the deck as much as he wants. Once the spectator is done shuffling, the magician gives him some instructions to follow. First, he asks him to break the deck in roughly 2 equal piles and to put down one of the piles on the table. Now the spectator has half of the deck in his hands. The magician asks him once again to break roughly half of the remaining deck and to put down the 2 broken piles on the table. Now that the 2 broken piles are on the table, the magician asks the spectator to spread the cards on the table. Once the cards are spread, the magician turns around and gives some instructions for the spectator to follow. Here are the instructions that the magician gives to the spectator. First, you'll have to flip over some cards that are located in this spread. The spectator chooses to flip over 4 cards. And obviously, he doesn't tell the magician how many cards he has flipped over. Now that he has flipped over 4 cards, he has to follow the same process in the other cards. Therefore, the spectator flips over 4 cards in the other spread. When all of this is done, the magician asks the spectator to close the 2 spreads to create 2 piles, just like so. Now, the magician turns over. He takes the remaining cards of the deck located to his left. He tells the spectator that he has to give him one of those 2 piles. The spectator gives him this pile. The magician has no idea how many cards the spectator has flipped in this pile. Here's what the magician does next. He brings the cards that he's holding in his hands to his back, and he tells the spectator that he will simply flip a certain number of cards. When he's done flipping cards, he puts the cards that he's holding in his hand on top of the pile on the table. And now he will simply count down all the cards that are face up on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. There were 15 cards face up in the deck. To conclude the trick, the magician takes the piece of paper where there is a prediction written on it. Once again, there are 15 cards that were face up in the deck, and against all the odds, the magician wrote down the number 15. How impossible is that? To perform this trick, you will need a normal deck of cards and a prediction. In this tutorial, I'll use a piece of paper. If you don't have a piece of paper to perform with, you can still use your phone. Make sure that on your prediction, you write a number. And make sure you remember this number. You will use it later for the trick. In this tutorial, I have written down the number 15. Once you have your prediction and your deck, you'll be all set to begin. Start by giving the deck to the spectator and let him shuffle the deck as much as he wants. Once he's done shuffling, ask him to break roughly half of the cards from the deck. Once he has the broken half in his hands, ask him to break this broken half into roughly 2 equal piles and to place those 2 broken piles on the table. Spread the cards on the table to create 2 spreads. At this point, you'll have to turn around, and here are the instructions that you'll have to give to your spectator. Ask him to flip over a certain number of cards from the first spread. Let's say the spectator decides to flip over 3 cards. Since he has flipped over 3 cards, from the first spread, he also has to flip over 3 cards from the second spread. Those 3 cards don't necessarily have to be in the same position as the 3 cards from the first spread. As long as he flips over the same number of cards in the first and second spread, everything will be perfect. Once he's done flipping the cards, ask your spectator to close the 2 spreads to create 2 piles. When the 2 piles are put back together, you can turn over. Ask your spectator to place either of those 2 piles on top of those cards right here. Now you'll have the majority of the cards in your hand, and you will have to bring these cards in your back. Here's what you do in your back. You'll simply have to count the number of cards according to your prediction. In this tutorial, the number is 15. Since the number written on this prediction is 15, simply count 15 cards just like so. Once you've counted 15 cards, flip them over and place them on top of the deck. You'll have to perform all of those actions in your back. Once all of those actions are performed, you can bring your hands on the table. Simply place the cards that you're holding in your hand on top of the pile that is on the table. Now, you'll simply have to count down all the cards that are face up in the deck, and the number of cards that are face up correspond to the number written on the prediction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Square up the cards and spread them on the table. Show your spectator that there were 15 cards face up in the deck, and that the number that you've written down in your prediction, it's also 15. Your spectator will have no idea